And I present to you the Nintendo Switch 2. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from Switch Force, bright and early, 5 a.m. on the Pacific Coast, and we've got our first leaks of Nintendo Switch 2 images. This is dropping in heavy this morning. A ton of pictures of what is supposedly a prototype of the Switch 2, giving us our best glimpse at what the system just might look like. And first blush response, type it in the comments down below. What's your first thought when you see this as the Switch 2? It looks a lot like the Switch 1, right? So what's going on, everybody? It's Zach from Switch Force. These images are from a Chinese forum. They are being spread around the internet. And obviously, this is like a prototype image, right? This isn't an actual photo. But as you can see from the sidebar, things get interesting because it does look like there's actual photos as well. And while everyone initially dismissed these as like, okay, it's just a bunch of BS, people are capitalizing on the Switch 2 hype, more and more people that look at these think that they're actually real. And I think the most shocking part of all of this is it looks so darn like a Switch OLED, right? Like this looks like a Switch OLED. You can see there's some differences. They give like the size and it's big, like it's like Steam Deck big. And we're going to go through all the images one by one. So this is the first one. Andy Robinson is now posting these. And VGC has said that one of their sources corroborates that like these images look like what they've been told the Switch 2 looks like, okay? We also have images of what would be the Joy-Con casing, and these are actual images. This is not like something made out of a modeling program. This is what they supposedly the actual casing of Joy-Con 2.0 look like. And as you can see, very, very Joy-Con-esque. The whole system is very similar to the Switch 1. Now, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Well, I think realistically, probably shouldn't have expected anything else. Nintendo probably wasn't going to reinvent the wheel, even unless they were going to go with like a two-screen design. They were going to make it look like the Switch 1. It's very successful, and how much can you do? Now, the triggers here are dramatically different. The triggers look like they've gotten an upgrade. You can see that this system is not so much a rail, it's more that like magnetic thing that we've been hearing about for a long time. And look, I guess I'll go ahead and say right now, like these could be completely fake. They could be complete BS, but because more and more people are saying like, no, I think these are legitimate, like it does seem like the floodgates are open and A, this thing could be revealed any second, and B, like this might very well be the system that we're playing in 2025. So these Joy-Con, I mean, they look very much like a Joy-Con, don't they? Outside of the rail, outside of the trigger being like different, it's like a well, the trigger I guess is technically the thing up top. It's this side button that I guess has gotten, well, that's the bumper. I mean, I don't even know. Aside, I'm trying to think of how this would hold. So you're holding it like this, and then you're triggering in sideways. That seems a little odd, doesn't it? What is the freaking current Joy-Con do? Joy-Con, where's the Joy-Con? Okay, so sorry about that. This is coming together. This is like live breaking news type stuff. So this is like 5 a.m. The trigger here is on the top. So this trigger is like, I guess it's still giving us this trigger. Let's see another picture. Is there a better picture of this? Is there another image that I can look at of this? Okay, let's go. Let's go to his next post. There's three posts of images. Okay, this is supposedly just like the straight up the casing of the system, the casing of the Joy-Con. I mean, everything looks very similar, but the trigger, instead of it being like this top firing, it's like a side fire, which I can't even really figure out how that's going to feel in hand. Yeah, it's like, look, it's like, okay, so I guess there's three buttons. We've got we've got this, and then we've got this extra new button here. So that's very interesting. Is that even a button? Now I'm confused. Is this even a button that we're looking at? You can see it's got a big kickstand here, very, very reminiscent of the Switch OLED. And the naysayers that say it's fake are going to say it's because it's so much like the OLED, right? Like this just looks like a modified OLED. But remember, this might not be the exact final design. This, as a prototype, could be, slightly modified for what the final manufactured product is. This, though, this looks like something like that. Dude, they just like, somehow they got these molds or these pieces, these parts. And if that's the case, like, I mean, you can tell things are different, right? Like the stick is higher up. Definitely a taller form factor to fit the bigger screen. The buttons are higher up. There's more real estate, right? It's a bigger Joy-Con, but these triggers, like, so it's a third trigger, I guess, a third button. This is my favorite view of the system. It does look so much like the OLED, but here's where you can, I think, really tell, like, this is a long boy. This is a long boy because it is very, very wide, but very thin. The triggers here, also the top triggers, they look better. They look like they have more overhang over the edge of the Joy-Con, which would allow for uh, I don't know what the word is, more, what is that called? Like yaw, more pull, more ability to press instead. Like the trigger on the Joy-Con is just such a thin click. It does not feel good to me at all. Those triggers do look like they have a little bit more give to them, maybe more akin to a Pro Controller. Like kind of like it does look like more like this, like a lifted button. Like, dude, if they could put dude, that right there is enough. If they can put the Pro Controller trigger on the Joy-Con 2.0, I'm sold. No drift in a Pro Controller trigger. Boom, we're in business. And doesn't it kind of look like that? Like, look at this image and then look at what this trigger kind of looks like from the top, the side. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell on a black controller, my black shirt, and it's very dark here. But like this it looks very similar to me. So I think that could be very snazzy. The sticks do look like they're more raised, like there's more depth to the stick, which would obviously be nice. And this just looks like a swanky Steam Deck at this point. Here is sort of the plain view here, PLANE. And again, you can see the sticks have a little bit more lift to them. From this angle, like it's hard to tell if the triggers do have that elevation, but I feel like I see a gap. I feel like I see a gap that reminds me a lot of the Pro Controller. If you have a Pro Controller with you, just grab it and go look at how there's like this like lifted gap. Like it's not much, but it makes such a difference between the Joy-Con trigger and the Pro Controller trigger. But again, this is looking like a very thin, sleek Switch OLED, right? I mean, that's basically what we're looking at here is like, hey, this is a Switch OLED that is sleek, that is thin, that is getting the job done of just being a cleaner Switch. There is a third post of images. This one, I think this is trying to show the difference between the Switch screen and the new Switch 2 screen, in which case, holy crap, it's huge. Holy crap, this is massive, right? Like, this screen looks giant. This thing looks giant. You can see there are some differentiations. Like, if you look at the bottom, it's not exactly the same. It's not like they just said, oh, Switch OLED, like they, honey, you know, we blew up the kid and here it is. No, there's like some differences. You can see some of the like screws are different. The bezel looks to be maybe even a little thinner, honestly. Maybe even a little thinner, especially given the size. Like, I don't know. It's just large. Like, that's the big takeaway from this. Like, if this is the Switch 2, it looks just like the Switch OLED, but enlarged. Here we've got the back. This seems to be the back of the original Switch, right? So this would not be, okay, so I guess this is not is that the OLED? What are we looking at here? This is the new thing, clearly. Yeah, this is the rails. Okay, I guess this is Switch 1. But this must be, what is happening? Okay, what is happening? Where is the Switch here? Okay, let me grab this. Okay, this is the OLED, and it has, so what we're looking at is the Switch, but the original Switch had so much more of a bezel than this. I'm kind of confused what we're looking at. This is clearly down here. This is clearly Switch OG, not OLED. So I guess then this is OG, but the OG should have had much bigger bezel than this. I don't know what we're looking at here. Just iterations of prototypes, maybe, like different versions. But you can clearly see on this bottom one, there is a rail-based system where the Joy-Con could slide in. And then you can clearly see on this top one, it's more like this joink, like, right? Like it's going to suck into, it's going to attach on to the system itself. I'm trying to now figure out what's going on because this is not the OG Switch front. Like, we'd like to believe it was, but there's way more bezel. Let's go to the next image. The best look yet of this Joy-Con, like really up close and personal. Again, this does look like a 3D model, like a fake thing that somebody could have made. But again, it's a prototype. It's not saying that this is not a photo, right? We have the shells, but then this is prototype imagery. And it looks very much like a Joy-Con, except with a different attachment structure. And you can kind of see on the back that button, that protruding button there, sort of this third trigger option that I don't know. I'm trying to think how that's going to be to press. Like, so you got up here, you're here. I guess it's like for this finger, your middle finger, right? If you're holding it like this, then it's this finger can like press. I mean, a lot of controllers, right? Like a lot of controllers do have like a, third-party controllers do have like a third button for like almost like a turbo button or like an extra button you can set. So I guess Nintendo kind of doing that themselves there. But it basically looks like a Joy-Con, which part of me is like, okay, I wish they would have made bigger leaps, especially because if you notice, there ain't no D-pad. There's no D-pad. I wish they would have made bigger leaps, but for it to be a multiplayer Joy-Con, there can't be a D-pad. I know a true D-pad is something we've seen in a lot of mock-ups. A true D-pad is something that a lot of people have hoped for. But if this is to be believed, there is no true D-pad. And I guess if we're thinking logistically, there wouldn't really be a D-pad possible if they want to keep the, like, hey, pop off the Joy-Con and you can play multiplayer. To me, it's like the biggest changes here are the rail system is replaced with this magnetic structure. The sticks do look like they have more room to move and it will feel better. The trigger looks lifted and reminds me a lot of the Pro Controller trigger. The Joy-Con itself is bigger to match up with the much bigger system, which just looks gigantic in this photo. If this is the Switch 2, if this is indeed the casing of the Switch 2, these big Joy-Con, tall boy Joy-Con, if this is indeed what we're looking at, how you feeling? How you feeling? It's basically sleek Steam Deck, and the Steam Deck itself, like, this is really very similar to the profile of the Steam Deck. Like, we're talking about, to me, this is like a Steam Deck OLED, except the Steam Deck OLED, I got all these wires. Steam Deck OLED has a much wider, sides here. They're not Joy-Con, but like the controllers and the grips have much more depth and ergonomics to them. So it's basically like a Steam Deck, except potentially less comfortable to hold because it doesn't have like the place to rest the back of your hand on the controller aspect. Also, the Steam Deck has the buttons way up high in the roly-poly sky, whereas this is like, okay, the buttons are more Joy-Con aligned. Although I will say, given that the Joy-Con are taller and the buttons do look higher, they're going to be in a better placement than this, which I think could be nice. To me, this looks like about, design-wise, right, as little as we could have hoped for a Switch 2. Like, it is the natural progression of the Switch, but nothing super fancy. And to me, that almost just makes me believe that it is very real. The fact that it's not super fancy, the fact that it does look very similar, and the fact that it reminds me of like an iterative design that you'd see out of a ROG Ally or a Steam Deck, and now a Switch, because it's in that category, the first of that category. Yeah, it's a bit, I will say it, it's a bit boring, but a sleeker, better controlling, better feeling, better triggered, better sticked, better Joy-Con Switch is all we want, right? I don't think anybody needs or wants Nintendo to reinvent the wheel here. If you do, you probably don't love the Switch as much as I do. If you do, you probably are okay with Nintendo failing, because the smart thing to do is call this Switch 2 and release something that's very similar, but just upgraded, improved, sleeker, more comfortable. I think the big missing for me here is like, dude, there's still no good grip spot for you to play this. And if this is the Switch 2, even though the triggers do look better, even though the sticks do look better, is this going to be comfortable to play for long play sessions? If you are wanting to play in handheld portable mode, do the buttons have more click to them? They look like they potentially could. It does look like the buttons could be a little bit more raised, have a little bit more movement to them, which I would really, a little bit more ability to press, which I'd appreciate. And a big screen. I mean, right? Like big screen, improved Joy-Con, voila. Better triggers, better sticks. It's a Switch 2. To me, the fact that it looks so similar makes me believe it. This could be the Switch 2, baby. In which case, I think if this is the Switch 2, if this is real, if these leaks are real, then that reveal has to be coming soon. It might even be like already have happened. It could be this morning. I think that's very plausible. I don't know. Either Nintendo's panicking hardcore because they were like, oh crap, we're not planning to reveal it, and now this is out there, or they're like, yes, right on schedule. Leaks happened the day that we were going to reveal it anyways. We'll find out. It is a mysterious roller coaster that we are on, and it's pretty darn fun, and I'm glad we're riding it together. This is super exciting. The Switch 2 at 5 a.m. Pacific. This could be our system for the next 7 to 8 years. This could be our next Zelda system, our next Mario system, our next Animal Crossing system. And when you think of it that way, how many hours you're going to spend with this thing, it's nice to meet you. It's really cool to see. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. Let me know your take in the comments down below. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Love you lots. Switch Force out.